I'm Dr. Kathy McFarland.
And I am Mark Bobo, and welcome to the OSBA Forum.
So, did you hear the storm last night by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, here's how I knew about the storm last night. I have a Great Dane, and all of a sudden he was like hanging his head over me. I wake up, there are sirens, there's lightning and rain. So I would have slept right through it, but my Dane was like, oh no, you're getting up, Mom.
I was awakened by two consistent booms that caused my lights to like flicker on and then flicker off, and woke up this morning to a downed tree on the property.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so that's awesome. So that'll be some nice hard work this weekend, but I'm looking forward to that. That'll be awesome.
What's interesting is you worried about downed trees. I would have worried about how was I going to do my hair
if
there was no electricity, but I don't think you need to worry about that.
No. So that was fun, but we got through it. But thankfully, I think the most I've heard on the news is people without power right now, but no major injuries or anything like that. So we are thankful for that. But as always, we're delighted to bring the OSBA Forum to you. Your association is committed to keeping you informed of the happenings within public education. And so as we know, Ohio's Department of Education experienced a transition in 2023. With this transition, we as educational leaders are eager to learn and understand how we can continue to partner with the State Board of Education to ensure that students have every opportunity to be successful in the classroom and aptly prepared for the workforce in the 21st century. And Kathy, I know our guest today is going to help us understand that.
Yes, absolutely. We are pleased to welcome the Superintendent of Public Instruction, Paul Kraft. For over 3 decades, he has served his local community, including serving for 11 years as a local superintendent. His education career includes various roles, including physics teacher, coach, and building administrator. And I will have you know that one of his students from his physics class is joining us in the studio. Mark, this officially marks the first time we've had somebody in the audience.
It's awesome.
Look at us. So anyways, I think it's just great when students come back to see their teachers.
Yes.
So concurrent to his career in education, Mr. Kraft also had a distinguished career in the armed services. He enlisted in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves in 1983 and was commissioned in the U.S. Army in 1986, retiring after 31 years at the rank of colonel. Following a dual career serving his local community and his country, Paul is committed to serving the students of Ohio and making sure that they have high-quality, professional educators who give them the tools necessary to succeed in the workforce of tomorrow. Superintendent Kraft, first of all, thank you for your service.
Yes.
And thank you for joining us today.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
I've always appreciated the work of OSBA.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And so, all of those wonderful things that we just mentioned about you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
You got the high points. I kind of split my 35-year career between classroom for about 17 years, and then went over to the administrative side. And then ultimately had the opportunity to be the superintendent in Delaware City Schools and a couple years in Buckeye Valley Local Schools before throwing my hat in the ring for this position and starting this role as the 40th Superintendent of Public Instruction for the state of Ohio on January 1st.
So I'm always interested, someone who's gone classroom, building, district level, which was your favorite part?
I miss teaching still every day.
Yeah, right.
I loved just the experience of watching kids grow and just being a part of what felt like a community.
Yeah.
So the teaching by far was my favorite.
And you know why I know you were an excellent teacher? Because we have a student that's joining us today. So good for you. Thank you.
Shout out to Amanda.
Yes.
Shout out to,
yeah.
No, every time we hear from former teachers that are in leadership, different capacity now, they always say they miss being in the classroom and seeing that development every day. So we definitely concur with that. So let me ask, with this transition between the State Board of Education and now the Department of Education and Workforce, some of our members are wondering, how does this work? What is this? Can you just tell us how exactly the roles and responsibilities are delineated between the two departments?
Yeah, it kind of almost an 85-15 split. So about 85% of the personnel and roles went over to the DEW.
All right.
And that includes, testing, it includes curriculum, all those major parts. We're structured on the State Board of Education side much more like, say, the Medical Licensure Board. So about 2/3 of our role is around licensure. So the license issuing themselves, last year we issued 175,000 licenses.
Wow.
This year we think it's, and permits, you know, coaches permits, all those student activity permit, all those things. We think we're going to go over 200,000 this year because they've added, we think we'll do 17,000 pre-service educator permits, which is a new requirement under House Bill 33. So we think we'll go over 200,000 total permits and licenses that we issue. So the license side, and obviously the challenge for that is just being timely.
Yes.
We've all been in that situation where you're a week out from school and you've got 3 teachers that don't have licenses yet, and you know, you're really starting to get anxious. We're committed to, even at our busiest time, never being further than a week behind in terms of meeting our timelines on issuing licenses. Then there's the Office of Professional Conduct, and that Office of Professional Conduct last year did 22,000 investigations. About 15,000 of those were connected straight into license issuing, things that ping during license issues, or you know, when people were going through license process. But about 7,000 of those were referrals. Some of those are, you know, a parent reaching out, you know, upset with the teacher, all the way up to teachers being accused of some of the worst things that you could ever imagine a teacher being accused of. So that's an incredibly important part of what we do. So there's that license side of making sure that we have a qualified individual of good moral standing in front of every one of Ohio's 1.6 million students. And we take that very seriously.
Yeah.
So I appreciate it as a former building principal when your goal to stay within 1 week, because when you do not have a certified, are we using certified or licensed? Licensed professional, students are coming to school, right? They're sitting in those seats, and so we do appreciate that you have that goal. I also have one more question. Have you looked at the trends? You know, there's a lot of conversations about that we are losing potential teachers coming into our industry. Do you see that when you look at the number of licenses that you have been providing?
We're starting to really get some of that data now. I think COVID kind of reset everything, so it's really hard to tell. But one of the things that we really want to see are the number of 2-year, you know, resident educator license that become 5-year licenses. You know, that they take that step.
That they're staying.
And I don't have that data yet, but that's one of the things my team is starting to collect now that we're kind of getting 2 years past COVID. We really do want to kind of look at that. What we do know is we have teacher shortages, especially in special ed across the state, career tech across the state, but more broadly STEM, even a few other, you know, there are parts where finding Spanish teachers is almost impossible. So there's some eaches in there that are kind of surprising, but especially special ed, especially career tech. But the pipeline in general is a concern.
Yes.
Now, in addition to the kind of 2/3 of our team that's dedicated to the teacher licensure and professional conduct, we still have some other things we're pretty excited about. We still are managing for our districts the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System, so all the software that helps to make that process work. That's separate from licensure. But it's important for our districts. We also do the Ohio Teacher of the Year recognition program. We're incredibly excited about that, and we've been very successful in getting Ohio Teachers of the Year recognized as National Teachers of the Year. So we're excited to continue the work in that area. We're doing property transfers still between districts. Some of those are very routine. Some of those become very, very contentious. So we have a team that works those as those come up. We don't have a lot of those each year, but when you do, those can become very, very large issues that the board is ready to deal with. We're doing some things with LPDC. So we've got some new responsibilities with LPDC. And one of the things we'd love to do is to roll out a statewide LPDC software support system. So some other roles supporting our districts, and our goal is to become that trusted professional organization on those areas that the legislature has left to us. And then more broadly, we also have a role to advise DEW and almost by inference the legislature as well. And we've had legislators you know, reach out as they were thinking, hey, I'm thinking about introducing this bill, or I'm thinking about, you know, making this modification to a bill that's being considered. What do you guys think of that, those kind of things? So we're excited to be a part of just the educational infrastructure going forward.
I love the fact that legislators are reaching out to you, because it's so important that you reach out to the practitioners.
Yes.
You know, I always say theory meets practice. In theory, something can sound really great, but until you talk to somebody that has implemented it or could see what it would look like in the schoolhouse, do you maybe understand the complications or how comprehensive those are. So that's good to hear.
And Superintendent Kraft, I heard you say you have influence and are able to give advice in regards to the Department of Education and Workforce. Can you talk more about how that partnership will work between these two departments directly?
A lot of it's just informal. You know, I mean, my office is right next to Steve Dakin's office right now. I think they're going to move us here in a couple of months, but when I came into the role, he and his chief of staff said, hey, we can find a couple different spots for you, but here's one right here. So we're doing regular meetings to kind of talk through things, because our 11 elected board members get constituents who reach out to them.
Yes.
And they don't know the difference between DEW and state boards. So some of those are questions that are handled by my staff, but a lot of those are questions that Steve and the DEW staff need to work. So yeah, we're going to have open communications there. The same with our partners in the Ohio Department of Higher Education. As we go through licensure, as new rules, grade bands, the new grade bands, you know, going from a middle year model to a K-8 and a 6-12 grade bands going forward. Now that's going to take years to roll in, but we've got to start working that with our partners in ODHE right now. So yeah, there are great cross conversations. More broadly, one of the things we want to talk about is the pipeline of teachers. We want to work with our partners to try to come up with a public interest advertising campaign. You know, think Marine commercials without as many guns. You know?
Right.
But you know, hey, this is the hardest job you'll ever love, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we're excited about, again, just being a part of this infrastructure going forward.
So before we move on to the next question, can you, for our audience members, explain how do you get on the board? What is the role of the board? When do they meet? I mean, I think there are some people out there that are like, what do they do, and how do they get on that position?
It's an amalgam. It's a very strange structure. What they did was they took Ohio's 33 Senate districts, so the state Senate districts, and they put them into threes to make 11 school board districts. So there are 11 elected school board members that represent every square mile of Ohio. So different size districts based off the Senate districts that they brought together. So those elected board members form the majority of our board members. And then the governor appoints 8. So that's a total of 19 board members. Okay. Well, as a district superintendent, I thought working with 5 school board members was, you know, at times had its challenges. 19 is a very interesting challenge, especially with that mix of elected and appointed. But we've got really good people on the board, so I'm confident going forward that the board with this more narrow focus is really going to add value to what we do for students in Ohio.
Yeah. Well, we have 38 on our board, and so if you get the synergy and everybody moving together, it's amazing.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah.
So it's important for families to be involved in their children's education. Can you tell us how family engagement contributes to student success, and how Ohio families can get involved in their students' education?
Well, the research is robust on that. The more that family is engaged, and it's not even, you know, there's no secret to it. Get your kid up, get your kid to school. Make sure that they spend some time doing their homework. Make sure they're getting enough rest. I mean, it's the basics are amazing, but it's a challenge. Nearly half of our kids in Ohio are growing up in single parent households, which makes even more challenges in terms of being able to manage all those pieces, much less, you know, involve oneself in, you know, the school life, PTO, you know, coming to school events, those kind of things. One of the things that we found that really works and it's really important is using multiple modes of communication. So you don't just send letters, you don't just do phone calls, you don't just use social media, you do it all to make sure that whichever way we can engage, especially our younger parents, that just, they gather information differently than my generation ever did. Making sure that we're using every possible mode of communications for them to understand what's going on in the school day to day and what's going on in the, that they can involve themselves with to help support their student.
I remember being at a Columbus board meeting, and that's what they were talking
Yes.
about. How, listen, we've got to get this out 17 different ways and consistently get it out there
Right.
so that their families could get the information. As an association, we stand for local leadership and direction at the district level by the duly elected and/or appointed school board members. How can we partner with the state board to benefit public education in the state of Ohio?
I think, well, first off, we're going to do our role really well. We're going to make sure that those boards have confidence in their educators as far as being qualified. We're going to try to have as much flexibility for licensure going forward as we possibly can, because some of those roles are going to get harder and harder to fill. We also want to be a part of the conversation. We've got one of our board members that's working with the lieutenant governor's kind of ad hoc task force on cell phones in schools. And I started, when I was still in the superintendent role with those meetings, and I'm glad that we've got one of our board members that's sitting on that. And we eliminated cell phones K-8. And it was life-changing at our middle school in terms of student engagement, in terms of reducing bullying, those kind of things. I want the state board to be one of the best read organizations around to help to inform those conversations and to be a part of those conversations. So some of it is making sure that we know what the trends are in education, across the United States.
When you say about the trends in education across the United States, we've had a lot of discussions about what the future of education will look like in the state of Ohio. So, Paul, from your experience of being a superintendent now in this new role, what do you see the future of education in the state of Ohio looking like?
I'm actually an optimist in general in life, but I'm excited about what AI is going to be able to do for us. We've always had what they call that 2 Sigma idea, that if we could get a tutor in front of every kid, we could raise learning by 2 standard deviations. I think AI and some of the work of Sal Khan with Khan Academy and what they're doing in terms of bringing AI, but more broadly, I think we're going to see even more people get into that space of bringing those AI tools to bear in a way that really gets us closer and closer to that individualized education for every student. That's if you've got 150 physical science kids, it's tough to say, hey, I'm going to individualize for every one of those kids.
Right.
But if you bring in those support tools that allow you to do the general instruction and then really specialize in on how to grow those kids on those concepts that are giving them challenges, or extend those kids who have really grasped those, I think AI is going to be wildly exciting, and I think sooner rather than later. I think in the next 5 or 6 years. Well, the scary part of that is those kids who are going to be teaching in that environment are college freshmen next year.
Right.
I see.
So yeah, it's going to be a wild time, and that's one of the things. Every week I share articles with my state board members, and yeah, AI has been one of those themes that we've had.
One of the things that we talk about is making sure that all students have access to technology, because as great as AI will be, we have to make sure that all of our kiddos in the state of Ohio have access to that. So, is it me? Okay. I got off a little tangent there. If there's one thing that you hope the people in the audience take away from our conversation today, what would it be?
I think just an understanding of kind of how that split affected the state board. That was not without controversy.
Sure.
I think I have state board members that still, feel a little raw because they ran for the board under one role and now they have a much reduced role. I'd love to see over time that we become such a trusted partner that they start looking at some other roles that we can help to add value on.
Right.
So I'd love to see the State Board of Education, which is a constitutional construct. I mean, it's in the Constitution, that it remain an important part of what we do for Ohio's 1.6 million kids, for our 609 traditional districts, and all the other alternative educational settings that have grown throughout the state, that we're a trusted partner as part of that infrastructure.
And I just want to, I mean, your job right now, though, of making sure that we're putting quality, healthy adults in front of our children is so important. So we want to make sure that we recognize that work that you're doing and tell you how much we appreciate that work.
So Superintendent Kraft, thank you for being with us here today. We really appreciate your work, and we're looking forward to partnering with you in the future, and we're looking forward to the great work the State Board of Education will continue to do for our kids.
Well, thanks for having me. Again, I always appreciate what OSBA does, and a special treat to see a former student from 25 years ago, maybe longer. But it just reminds me of why we do what we do, because those were the best times in my life, and I want to make sure that every kid has a teacher that's that ready and as ready and as excited as I felt I was.
Yeah,
So
that's
awesome.
neat to see. So thank you to our membership for your leadership in your local communities. And if there's any way that our OSBA team can help you, please contact us. We are here as a resource to you, our membership. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for being here at the OSBA Forum.